What's going on, guys? Happy Thursday, April 2nd. Good news. Today's video is going to be pretty short. We're just going to review the videos that I asked you guys to watch last night. Give you a little bit of update on Google Meet and give you some work to do tonight or for tomorrow. All right, so I had you guys watch a couple of videos. Hang on, let me fix these screens real quick. All right, there we go. Had you guys watch a couple of, or just the one video on measures of center, also sometimes called measures of central tendency. And it should have been pretty easy because measures of central tendency are just mean, median, and mode. And I think a lot of you guys probably knew that from way back in middle school. So I kind of just wanted to give you a quick rundown on the what and the why about mean, median, and mode. So again, should be pretty short. So let me show you this. So mean, median, mode, they are exactly what they say are, the measures of the center. So if you have data and you want to know, like, well, what is the middle point? Because remember, guys, in statistics, as well as in science, the easiest way to convey information to people that are not into math or that are into science is to give them something that's easy to understand. I mentioned this a while ago when we were talking about charts, how it's a lot easier to convey information by just looking at a chart than it is by reading a paragraph describing what the chart is all about. And it's kind of the same with measures of central tendency. Because if you want to know, like, what is kind of the middle, what is the average of whatever it is that you're measuring, then you're going to use one of these three data points, either the mean, the median, or the mode, depending on what your data looks like. So I've written down here just a couple of plot graphs, dot graphs here. And you can see on the first one that the shape that the data makes is pretty consistent, pretty well proportioned across the data, which gives it kind of this bell curve, which is where we get the term bell curve. And I think I showed you guys before we left class the reason why they call it a bell curve. This ought to be fun. Let's test my drawing abilities. Is because it looks like, oh man, this is really bad. Can I design it? Here, I'll put a star on there. A little star, maybe some stripes. Oh, this could be a long video, actually. I could go with different colors, maybe. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is turning into like a half-hour video. There we go. So it kind of, oh, and we got to do the, booyah. There's your bell. Yeah, so it kind of looks like a bell, which is why they call it a bell curve. So in this case, you can see the data is pretty proportional, meaning that there's pretty much the same amount on the low end as there is on the high end, and everything, the majority of the data seems to be clustered kind of in the middle. So that's a pretty proportional graph. As far as our measures of central tendency, mean, median, and mode, so if we added up all the values of these dots, like 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. We added it all up. We'd come out to 107. And the way you find the average is you add everything up and then divide by the number of data points there are. So in this case, there happens to be 24 data points. So I would take the total number that this represents, which would be 107 if I added up all these numbers, and divide by 24, and I end up with 4.5. as the average or the mean, which is, you know, pretty much right here. That is the mean. And again, mean is also referred to as the average. The median is the middle point. So the median is the point that divides the data half on the low side, half on the high side. And we talked about that middle point or that median when we were looking at box plots. So there are 24 data points on this graph here. So that means that the data point between 12 and 13 would be our median. Because it's an even number, it doesn't divide it exactly in half. So we would count 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this is 13. So my median is going to be right there, which is 4. The mode, which is the third measure of central tendency, is the number that is represented the most. So if I look at this chart here, there are more 4s than there are any other number. And this data could represent anything. Let's say that this is, if we asked 24 people, how many live in your household, right? So you got some with just them and their single parent. Maybe they're an only child with 2 parents. They got 1 brother or sister, 2 parents, whatever. So the mode would be what shows up the most, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 people that have 4 members of their family living at their house. So the mode is 4, which occurs most frequently. And that's pretty much it, guys. And the reason why these 3 things are important in statistics and, again, in science is if I'm looking at this chart here, rather than bore you with giving you details about, oh, here's my chart and I got 3 people on 2, if I just told you the average and said, hey, there's 24 kids in my period 7 class, and on average, the average kid lives with 4.5 people in their house. That would easily give you guys like some quick information, like, oh, okay, so you kind of get an idea of like, all right, so in Mr. Mack's period 7 class, the average household is about 4 to 5 people live there. So you figure mom and dad and maybe 3 kids. So it's just easier to convey that information than to try to explain it to you, or especially if you had to read like a scientific paragraph that was trying to explain the data. Mean median mode is just a simple way to look at the midpoint of a series of data. All right. And the other little thing down here that I just drew was just to give you show you what a curve would look like that is not proportional. So in this case, if I were to kind of draw this curve, we would see that it kind of peaks more up here and then goes down pretty suddenly at the end. And most of the clusters are here towards the right on the higher numbers. So this particular set of data is not as proportional as the first one. And if I ran the numbers, again, there's 24 points on this data, but it would add up to 137. And when you divide 137 by 24, you get 5.7. So now the average of this graph here would be closer to right here at 5.7 as the average. The median is 6. So if we counted 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, my median is going to be right in here, which is 6. And then the mode, the one that shows up the most, happens to be 7. So you can see the difference. You know, the mean, median, and mode up here at this graph was basically right around 4, 4.5. We get down in here and we're closer 6, 6.5, 7. So again, easier to explain or easier to convey that kind of information to somebody just by saying, hey, the average is 5.7. You're like, okay, so you did get at least a general understanding of what the data is trying to tell us here. All right, so that's basically it for measures of center, mean, median, and mode. What we're going to be getting into next, not tonight, but for probably tomorrow, is instead of measures of center, we're going to be looking at measures of spread, which talks about from here to here. So like in this case, one of the popular measurements is the range. So what would the range be, say, for this data set here? Well, it starts here at 2, and it ends here at 8. So 2 to 8 is 6. 8 minus 2 would be 6. So the range, in this case, would be 6. So that is an example of a measure of spread that we're going to be looking at in the next video. Okay, so that's pretty much it for instruction for today, guys. I do want to give you a couple of heads up on some things. First, hopefully you guys saw on Google Classroom that Google Meet is not being used anymore. The platform has some bugs in it, and it was just causing a whole lot of problems for a lot of the teachers and the administrators. So they told us in a meeting today, no more Google Meet. So what I'm going to do instead is use Zoom. If you're not familiar with Zoom, it's very much kind of like Google Meet. It's a video conferencing or teleconferencing, and it's pretty much going to be the same as I had said before. So what I'm going to do, and we'll start this on Friday. And again, it's the same thing I said about Google Meet. It's basically open office hours, so that if you need to pop in and you want to ask me some questions about the math or whatever, then you can do that. So I'm going to be available on Friday from 11 to 12, and that's a.m. This is not at night, by the way. 11 a.m. to noon, and then again from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. You know what? I'm going to put p.m. because I know there's going to be some wise guys out there. They're going to be like buzzing my phone at 3 o'clock in the morning wanting to know about measures of center. And I'll be like, dude, go to bed. So p.m. and this is a.m. to p.m. I am going to post the link, because again, it's just a link. I'm going to post the link to the Zoom room, I guess, the Zoom room, in Google Classroom. And I will do that on Friday morning, or maybe even tonight. So either tomorrow morning or tonight, I'll go ahead and post that link. And it's the same thing. You just click on the link. It'll take you right into the Zoom room where I'll be, and I can answer your questions. Same thing applies for your parents. They're more than welcome to join you, or just by themselves if they want to talk to me. That's fine. Just remember, there's more than one person in that room at the same time. So it's not just like private one-on-one video conferencing. It's kind of like whoever shows up, and they'll be there also. Okay? As for your assignments, I am posting a worksheet for mean, median, and mode. I'm posting that on Google Classroom. It's a PDF paper, just like a worksheet. And what I want you guys to do is, I also have a daily review to do. So here's what you'll do. For your daily review, which is day 8, we're going to do all of them except for 7 and 11. You don't have to do those two. On the back of the daily review, go ahead and just write the answers to the mean, median, and mode worksheet. Guys, I think there's less than 10 questions on there for mean, median, mode. I think there's like 6 or maybe even 8. So it's not a whole lot. So you can just do that on the back of that paper. And I'm still trying to figure out, guys, like how to get me papers. A bunch of you took screenshots, or took a picture with your phone and then mailed that photo. That could be something that we will do. For right now, just hang on to it. You don't have to send me any pictures until I kind of figure out what is going to be the best way for you to submit an assignment. Because basically, this is your first assignment this week. All right, so Zoom tomorrow, which is Friday, 11 till noon, and then again from 3 to 4. Try to show up closer to 11 and closer to 3. I read something that they only allow Zoom classes or Zoom to be 45 minutes in length. So if you showed up at 11:50 and I wasn't there, maybe they did that. I'm not sure, but I just put 11 to 12. But try to get there, the earlier the better. And then you got your assignments. That's it, guys. Have a great night. We will talk to you tomorrow.